welcome to the Sugar and Spikes podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs, side hustlers, and anyone ready to uplevel their career in their own damn way. I'm Des. I'm a life coach for women who get that having it all sometimes means having to balance the good and the bad, the sugar and the spikes, and all the in-between.
And I'm Tammy. I'm a compassionate yet BS-free therapist, and I work with clients to help them build skills to lead kick-ass lives.
Between the two of us, we have 4 master's degrees and thousands of hours helping people develop balance, confidence, and clarity on their terms. So let's get started. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sugar and Spikes podcast. Today, we are talking about all of the feel-good feelings, I feel like let's just open it with that. So I was watching something.
Okay.
And this one person...
Real Housewives?
No, almost. Actually, it was someone that I think many of the listeners may know, but it was an Amanda Francis / Amanda Crowder webinar thing. They did their vision board party.
Oh, nice.
And I was watching it. And so also, if either of you guys are ever listening to this, we love you. Come on the show.
I know, you're amazing.
So Andrea said something and it was just kind of like an aside, but I really caught on to it and I was like, I like that. And it was, what do I need to feel good right now?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that and that perception of just that version of checking in with yourself.
Yeah.
It really resonated because one of my goals this year is to kind of be more mindful and embrace the fact that my lifestyle is so flexible, which is definitely like a state of privilege. And I feel like we all have those, like the room for flexibility and stuff, in certain ways.
In certain ways.
So this idea of being less rigid with myself and whatnot, the idea of well, what would make me feel good right now?
Mm.
And just how much that amplifies into, well, I'm feeling good, so then I'm going to want to do this, and then I'm going to want to do that. And, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really liked it. And it felt a little less, woo and flowy as don't live by rules and blah, 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 which doesn't work well for me.
Yeah.
I tried the whole no rules thing. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I need more structure than that.
Yeah. Which kind of ties into my things that I know concept, but the what would make me feel good thing. I've totally been tangenting on that.
So that's been your thing lately.
And I've tried it out. So, okay. I'll open it with this.
Okay.
Today I woke up pissed off, angsty. I had really negative dreams.
Mm.
That might be the next episode.
Okay.
Because they were fascinating. But definitely first dream set in a week since I started doing hypnosis stuff.
I wondered if we were going to talk about that.
That might be the episode after the dream episode.
Okay. Or part of it.
Yeah, or part of it. But I had a dream last night and it was pretty intense, and it was the first time in a week where I woke up feeling all sorts of negative. I was angsty, stressed out with work, travel that's coming up, all the things that I need to do. I started immediately, I woke up caught in the I need to do all of these things.
So the do of life. Yeah.
And just feeling really stressed out about that.
Yeah.
And I stopped myself and I was like, well, what do I need to do to feel good right now? And just kind of let that be. And I realized that one of the things I was most stressed out about and that I haven't been thrilled with lately is the style of workout I've been doing.
Okay.
So I was well, I'm going to get that out of the way because I don't like stressing out about it until later in the evening, which is what I've been doing.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to get that out of my way, and that will take some of the pressure off. That'll help me feel good.
Yeah.
And then that totally just was a total ripple effect for the rest of my day. It got a ton of stress, more stress than I think I was giving the idea of a workout. I felt much more relieved and centered.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open that up.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that, right? So what do I need to feel good in the moment doesn't necessarily mean what do I need to feel happy.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what I need to feel good could be a workout. It could be, I really need to cry right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It doesn't necessarily mean what do I need to be happy and feel like the whole world is amazing. It doesn't have to be that. So it's very much this mindful, what do I need right now? What is going to help me?
Yeah.
What is going to further me down the road and kind of nourish me? That's the idea that I get. It could be a cry. It could be feeling your feelings. It could be saying, I'm really angry right now, and that's okay. With feeling your anger.
Yeah.
It could also be doing amazing, fun things.
Yeah.
Right? I don't always want to be like, well, it could mean deeper, awful things. I kind of feel like I'm that person. But, I mean, the devil sort of being a therapist. What's the deeper meaning in that? But
sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Oh my God, I wanted to yell that at some of my professors.
So true. I'm not even a psychodynamic therapist.
But so I was thinking about it, and I was doing the thing that I always do, which is was well, what are people going to say about this?
Like judging yourself or prejudging for other people.
I like to think of planning ahead and being strategic.
It makes you anxious though, yeah?
I mean, it gives me really good arguments. But you're right. So I was talking with someone. I was talking with someone about kind of around this topic, the assuming piece, the pre-planning. Yeah. And he totally called me on it. He was like, did you have this conversation you're having with me already in your head, thinking you knew what I was going to say?
Yep.
Yep, except that part. Yeah. And then he went off on this total tangent about how much energy that wastes and blah, blah, blah. And yes, it can waste energy. And it can be fun. It can be beneficial. It all depends on to what extreme you take it.
Right. So it's that idea of a certain amount of anxiety boosts performance, whereas too much makes it terrible.
Yeah.
And so, yes, because what you're talking about tends to bring up anxiety in people, right? We're trying to reason through consequences and things that haven't happened.
But I will say, I was totally taking, maybe a diversity approach, diversity considerations, because, so the what would make me feel good piece. I can see how so many people would come back and tell me, Des, you work from home, you do your thing, who the hell are you answering to? All these things. Of course you can, stand there and be like, well, I'm going to do whatever makes me feel good in the moment. But, the deal is...
So they're just basically saying you're super privileged.
Which, I mean, and...
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, it's right? Yes, totally. I wasn't judging. I was just summing up.
Yeah.
Yes.
So people finding privilege in that. And I can see how that could be assumed to be a very privileged statement. The person that said it came from privilege.
Yeah.
Built privilege, but still privilege.
Privilege.
And still privilege.
Yes.
So what about, I was thinking about this, what about the person working at McDonald's that feels super overwhelmed and all, what would they say? What would make me feel good in the moment? And the thing is I feel there are always small tweaks.
Yeah.
If you broaden your horizon, I want to know where you thought I was going with that. Because she made this face.
I wasn't sure. I was like, I'm so fascinated right now that we're okay. Well, here's the thing. It actually made me, not to make this all about me, but it made me think about my life.
Yes.
And the hours and hours and hours that I have to drive in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get off work, maybe what I need right now is to eat, but I have an hour and a half drive ahead of me.
Right.
So given that I have the hour and a half drive ahead of me, what can I do? And so I put on a podcast or listen to music, but more often podcasts because that's just how I roll. Mm-hmm. And so I'll put on a podcast I really want to listen to and just kind of ease into the drive and be like, okay, I'll take care of my food when I get home.
Yeah.
So I think the situation I think you're talking about is what about somebody who maybe doesn't have as much privilege? That's what I kind of heard in your question.
Or when you feel stuck or stressed.
Yeah.
It's really easy for me to think, well, what can I do to feel good in the moment? As I'm getting my day started. But also, I think back to 9 to 5 me with back-to-back meetings and a to-do list that piles up nonstop. Well, what can I do to make myself feel good in the moment? Sometimes that would have been getting one of the emails that I needed sent out done. that would have made me feel a little less stressed.
Yeah.
You know, so it sounds like the super privilegey thing and super luxe, which it is. Like, I feel like it's also another way to incorporate.
It can be.
I think it's a way to incorporate the idea of.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking to like elevate your life and kind of get to like another level and stuff and feel more in control, like I definitely feel like it's so much more empowering than like I gave it permission to in the beginning.
Yes.
I think it's really fucking empowering.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm all about empowerment. I think there's always something you can do to feel more empowered. And so like, what do I need to do to feel good in the moment? What do I need to do to feel empowered in the moment? Maybe empowering is what you need, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking of this really strange example. Like when I worked I work kind of a 9 to 5 now, but when I was working as like an administrative assistant. And so what I used to do is I had a heater under my desk and I would go put my feet in front of the heater and that felt really good. And I would do that for a few minutes and then go about my day. So I didn't have a lot of power and I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of privilege. And yet this was one small little thing that I did that would like feel good and I would like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like with so many of these like splurges or self-care things even, and this is really what we're getting into, right? This idea of self-care.
I feel like we get into this topic a lot.
Well, because it's something that needs a lot of unpacking.
I agree.
Because so I was reading this list and it was like millennial generalizations, like what millennial stereotype do you meet? Or like what millennial stereotypes are you obsessed with? Or something like that. It was a BuzzFeed list.
Okay.
And one was you're obsessed with self-care. And then the little caption was cleans apartment for 10 minutes, takes a 2-hour bath. You know? So yeah, it's really prevalent and we really need to talk about this.
I love BuzzFeed.
One of my goals is to be featured on BuzzFeed. So BuzzFeed, if you're listening, we love you. Come on the show. Or I'll be on your show, which is the internet. So
or we'll write you something awesome. Well, I think self-care it's kind of popular and trendy right now, right? And I know that if I say the word self-care, if a professor or whatever, because we talked about this in school, like to ask me what comes up about self-care. Oh, exercise, taking a bath, doing things for yourself, like kind of luxury things, right? And not that there isn't time for those things, but self-care isn't always like sexy things like bath with champagne. Sometimes self-care is getting to the grocery store and buying food.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it's cleaning your house. Sometimes it's doing laundry. It's not always things that we super enjoy, but it's things we need to kind of nourish us, to keep us going, to feed our soul. Right?
Well, and that kind of gets me to my like core kind of concepts. And I can't remember if it was this episode that I just talked about it or the episode before. Oh. But I played around with the no rules thing. That was this episode. That was like 3 minutes ago. Guys, it's been that type of week. This is what
happens when you record back to back. We do it. It's true.
So I played around the whole no rules thing.
Yeah.
That didn't go well. And what I realized is there are some cornerstone pieces that I need to be at least a functioning human being, if not like optimally performing.
Okay.
Those things are, I need to exercise.
Okay.
Generally, morning's better for me.
Okay.
I need to make sure I'm like eating the vegetables and like being open. And just like being honest with like where I am and like
open and authentic to new experience.
Well, like having my voice. So instead of being asked, well, what do you want for lunch or something? Like instead of not caring, like I need to actually like say what I want.
So be assertive.
Yeah.
Okay. Get your needs met.
Like those are the 3 things. Oh, and then the other thing for in terms of like functioning, I need to actually like get dressed in the morning instead of living in sweats.
Okay.
Which, I mean, for some people, the whole like no rules and I'm going to work out whenever I work out and I'm going to wear Lulu for days.
Yeah.
That works for them.
Absolutely.
Does not work for me.
Okay.
I do better when I have a little bit of eyeliner on. Something I know now.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. No, you go
Well, I
ahead.
was going to say, like, so those are like core self-care pieces for me.
Okay.
Versus, so like those are like keep as functioning things.
Yes.
Versus like the luxe self-care where I'd like post it on Instagram and shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the taking a bath with champagne.
Yes.
Like there are different levels. This is what I was getting at. There are levels of self-care.
There are levels of self-care. There's like the must-have.
Yes! That.
Need to have. Would be nice to have. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I have this one time.
And then like
have.
week-long vegan spa retreat.
Right.
Level, right?
Exactly. Like yoga retreat in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, people can get stuck in ideas of what self-care is. I remember somebody asking me like, how much time do you get to yourself each week? And as I'm thinking, they're like, it doesn't count if you're in the car. And I was like,
why does that not count?
And I'm like, well, first of all, then I'm like, well, then my answer is none.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but my time in the car does count because I make active use of that time. Because I remember when I first started making the long drives that I have for work, it was really hard for me. I was struggling and I was like, I just can't do this. And then I'm like, okay, but I have to do it. So what can I do to get through my day? So I always leave with coffee.
Nice.
And I always go home from work with a full bottle of water. And I make sure that I pick podcasts that will get me through the drive. And if I have to listen to 2, I download one ahead of time.
Okay. Because you drive through the middle of nowhere.
Because I drive through the middle of nowhere where there's no cell service. And so I prep for my drives in these very conscientious ways so that I can use them. And then you and I have even introduced the idea of maybe doing some work while I'm in the car and maybe doing some dictation. So we've kind of played around with that idea and including that. And so that I feel like I'm using the drive in ways that are most effective for me and ways that make me feel good. And so, because the truth is, I have 3 children and my partner and other responsibilities. There isn't time for me to be by myself. It's just not the reality of my life. And that's okay.
Right.
You can still have self-care when you don't get a single moment alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you can make it. So there are 2 things that I heard in there.
Okay.
The first is no one else defines self-care except you.
Right.
So important.
Yep.
And the other one is self-care may mean work, whether it's prep or like if you're doing a side hustle, it may be because your side hustle fuels you. Like self-care is not just the Netflix binges and the baths with champagne or the baths of champagne, which is just really sticky.
The beds of money.
But like it's meal prep.
Yeah.
It's tidying up after you leave a room. Like for me, oh my God, that's so key because when things are like askew and out of place at my house, I get overwhelmed to the point where like I feel like I can't breathe.
Yeah.
And then I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And then there's just a really negative spiral. So like another form of self-care is tidying up like at the end of the day or something like that. So then I walk down and things are cleaned up a bit. And like
absolutely
organized.
Yeah, so you feel good in your space. You feel grounded in your space,
Yeah.
and you have to kind of do this prep to make sure that happens.
I like what you said on our actual like self-care episode.
Yeah.
Like self-care is the care of self, and taking care of someone is work.
It is work.
Yeah. So I have a question for you though.
Okay.
The other day you texted me and you said, I feel like the universe is saying get really good, like have good self-care.
Yeah.
So considering our levels conversation.
Yeah.
What'd you mean by that?
Oh, so I was going through a couple of things that kind of punched me in the face a little bit. I wasn't expecting them. They kind of blindsided me. And so what was I thinking at the time? Get really good at self-care. Oh, it was like, you really have to take care of yourself. And sometimes we have these, in case of emergency, break glass self-cares.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we don't always go to those, and sometimes we need to.
Yeah.
And because I have the life that I have and the responsibilities that I have to be really skillful about the way I invest my time in taking care of myself, because I can get lost in taking care of other people. My job is to take care of other people.
Yeah.
And I'm a parent, which means taking care of little other people.
Uh-huh.
And
then she has me as a friend, which means, oh God.
So taking care of you. No, we take care of each other. You know, and I have dogs, and so taking care of them, and I have a partner and taking care of him.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I have lots of taking care responsibilities,
Right.
but I feel like kind of with these punches in the face is like life saying, you need to be more skillful at this because things are going to keep coming, and you need to know how to be your best self and see your way through them.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say it, but for me, like in an efficient way. And I don't think everybody needs to necessarily have efficiency that way. I just think like the nature of my life means that like I may have an hour and a half from the time I leave work to the time I get home to deal with whatever I'm dealing with. And then I have to walk in the door, and I have to be there, and I have to be mom, and I have to take care of my kids and my dogs and my husband and my dad and all the responsibilities that I have. So I have that hour and a half in the car where I can say like, okay, what am I feeling? How am I going to feel my way through it? What am I going to do to contain it when I get home so that I can be my best self as a mom, as a partner, as a daughter, all those things?
Well, I think efficiency is so important. Like we talk about process, and there's space for process. And for folks that are like wanting to level up or that are in other positions, because like your position is unique, and there are millions of other people that are in similar.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, so I think it's worth more than a nod to the idea of efficiency. I think that, like, let's be real. A lot of times we need to be efficient. And that's why, like, going back to the level thing, like, that's why we have, like, those basics and then those yoga retreats in Mexico where, like, you don't get it all the time.
Yeah.
Because you can't, like, life often isn't like that.
Right. And, you know, we talked about in our last episode, like having your bucket, having your emotional bucket, and your self-care basics kind of help you maintain a lower level in that bucket.
Yeah.
So that feeling uncomfortable in your office because it's so messy, feeling uncomfortable in your clothes because you're on your last pair of everything because you haven't done laundry, increase what's in your bucket. And so your self-care basics, I kind of think, are like subtracting all of that.
So almost, I'm probably going to get this analogy or visualization thing wrong, but I think it's like a planter, like your self-care plant. Oh my God, this is going so far. Okay. Let me set my drink down.
Okay. This is important, everybody. She set her drink down.
Okay. So like you have this planter, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, planters have like the holes at the bottom for stuff to like run out.
Yeah.
And that's what your base level of self-care is. So things kind of go through and the plant's still able to like grow and stuff.
Yes.
But then when you're not able to do that, they get plugged up, like there's encroaching like stuff. And then it's not able to drain. And then your plant dies.
Yep. Or it dries up because you're not doing those things, and then the plant dies.
Yeah.
So either way, like if you don't do them, it will die from starvation.
Well, if water's stress, if the holes are plugged up, then it's
right, and then you drown.
Exactly.
In the stuff. Yeah, I love it. That's amazing. You're amazing.
Well, my job here is done. No, but it's like that's the thing. Like we think of things as very black and white, and this has happened to me and it needs to stop, and I'm feeling this way and it needs to stop, and all of these things. Whereas if you think of like our emotions and stuff as like flow, like flowing through us, then it becomes easier to manage by like opening up a couple of those holes in the planter.
Yes.
I'm gonna make millions off that idea.
I know. Totally. It's golden. We're golden. You heard it first here. Yeah. I think that's a really good analogy, though. It's like ways to keep the system moving, ways to keep the system healthy. Right?
Well, and bringing it back to the what would make me feel better conversation is what would unplug a hole.
Yeah.
Which sounds a little weird, but I'm gonna keep with it.
A hole, or what would feed me now? Yeah. Like not necessarily food, but like feed my soul, nourish me in some way. And that might be a good cry, or it might be some amazing exercise, or it might mean a Netflix binge.
Yeah.
It could mean any and all of those things.
Oh, and one other thing I want to touch on before we wrap up is it may mean something different than what you thought it would.
Absolutely.
Because there have definitely been times where I'm like, I just need to work out or something like that. And I'm like, that didn't do it. You know? So I think
it's like food cravings. You have to find the one that matches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where, to your point, having like a good like portfolio or library of self-care like techniques and things that you know work is really essential, because then you're not stuck feeling like, well, that didn't work. What do I do now? With like more stress of like trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Like having like go-tos.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like you have I talk about like a toolbox. It can be a file folder. It can be whatever analogy you like to kind of think of this like multitude of things that you have to choose from. Yeah.
I like to think of it as like a Rolodex, like in terms of like,
I like that.
Like lettering. So like, do I need like luxe self-care right now? Okay. What am I needing? Do I need to eat? Okay. What type of food do I need to eat? Because eating is totally something that like, I'm not saying emotional eating, but like if you've been working all day and you've gotten 10 hours without food, you're going to start feeling not great.
Right. And so that might not be the best time to choose like a lot of sugar, like M&Ms, which are delicious, but...
Or would it be the best time to choose going for a run?
Right.
But it may be a really good time to choose going out for sushi.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So...
Sushi sounds amazing right now.
I know, right?
So good.
But yeah, my little Rolodex of self-care.
Nice. So one thing that I want to touch on, and I think we'll just stop it right here, is something I've been really getting into lately is like coached visualizations or
the coach manifestations.
Guided manifestations.
Yes.
Okay. One thing that I've really been interested in lately is this idea of guided manifestations. I recently had some continuing education in hypnotherapy. And so I've really been getting invested in this idea of like guided healing through the subconscious. And
which like there's science around, right? Yeah.
So I think I'm going to leave it here because it would take too long and we would go on and on and on about how amazing it is.
But we're going to talk about how it's so magical. And guys, I've kind of become hooked.
I know. It's magical. It's amazing. I love it.
Like my partner glares at me now every night when he sees me with my headphones on.
That's what I was doing last night. Yeah. I'm like, just a second. I have to do this thing.
But we're going to talk about that, and I'm actually really excited for it because along with an episode around it, we have some other really good stuff in the works too. So we are super skills based. We love giving you guys all the tools you need to do the things that you need to do.
To pick the tools that are right for you.
And we're always looking at ways we can give you guys more tools.
Yes.
So that's up and coming.
Yay! I love it. I hope you guys become as passionate about it as I am.
Yeah. It's fabulous. I never thought I'd be the person that was like, yes, I'm going to sit here with my like calming person talking to me. I'm totally that person now.
I know. I've totally turned in that person too. Yeah. And like if you had asked me before the training, I would have been like, no, I'm not that person. And I really see the value in it, and I've really gotten a lot of benefit from it.
Well, there are reasons why like the big like Fortune 500 guys do it.
Yeah.
You know? So we'll get into it.
Obviously, we're trying to get into it now, but we are not. We are going to show restraint. We are going to show some self-discipline, and we're going to stop right here.
And we will talk to you guys later.
Take care, friends.
Bye. That wraps up this episode of the Sugar and Spikes podcast. Thanks so much for listening. We'd also like to thank Forget the Whale for use of their song Move Along as our theme music. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and let the whole world know how good this shit is by leaving a review. It would mean so much. Also, don't forget to get your free stress layer training by going to DesireeW.com and clicking on Slay Your Stress. You'll also find a link to that in the show notes below. Till next time, and remember to stay unavailable for fuckery.